This is Bills Game Day Recap. I'm Thad Brown along with Rachel Liebert. The Bills finish off the preseason with a 28-27 win over the Steelers. Rachel, no starters in this game, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, the game looked kind of dead. Steelers were in control most of the way. Bills down 10. And then suddenly Shane Buechele channels his inner Joe Montana and leads a comeback in this game.
I know for a second I thought, at the beginning of this game that, okay, the Steelers might really get something going here. It doesn't look like the Bills have maybe woken up yet. And then all of a sudden, fourth quarter they wake up. And I did miss some of it because I was in, getting stuff ready to go in the locker room. So I was kind of sad I did miss the environment out here. But, I mean, great comeback, great win for him.
We will talk about the environment a little later on here, but let's start with, I think, the number one star of this game, and that was Skyler Bell, who was also probably the main player I think people would have been interested to see. Tyler Bass, you can make an argument for. Michael Hoyt kind of had a cup of coffee on the field, but Bell was a guy who hadn't played at all in the preseason, had been injured a lot, a rookie that came in with a lot of expectations, and really had not had a good preseason. There were drops, there were issues with route running, and in this game, Rachel, he was really good. 7 catches and a touchdown on the ground.
Yeah, a touchdown on the ground was really what kind of stood out. I mean, rushing touchdown from Skyler Bell in his preseason debut was really not what I thought was going to happen here.
Not on the bingo card.
Not on the bingo card, no, not at all. But I mean, like you said, he had a really, really great game. Too, he didn't have a great preseason. We've seen, the flashes of him. He was out for quite some time with that groin injury. But tonight, this was, I think, the Skyler Bell game. This was his moment to prove why they drafted him, because we haven't seen that so far, and I think he stepped up to the plate.
Josh Reed brought up a good point on the Bills postgame live show that Bell played deep into the fourth quarter. And we actually on the sideline were having some conversations about, hey, we've seen him. Like, do you need to have this guy out here in case he gets hurt? And one of the things that Josh said was him playing that deep into the game was probably a good sign for the health of Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, because if you get that performance from Skyler Bell, and he clearly looks like a guy who at least in theory could contribute in the regular season, if you felt like you needed him, you're not playing him that late in the game. So I think bottom line, you feel okay about Shakir and Coleman and the guys who've been banged up on the receiving core going forward. By the way, I can vouch for Keon Coleman's health. After the Pettis 2-point conversion to give the Bills the win, Coleman was doing a little jig on the sideline, no boots.
He's fine.
So he's good. He's good
fine.
to go.
He's
right,
back,
right.
yeah.
So Skyler Bell was certainly the number one story of this game. The other big story didn't have to do much with a guy or how he played in the game, but what Joe Brady said about him after the game. Max Hairston wasn't great in this one. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But afterward, Joe Brady got a question about whether or not Max Hairston was still the starting corner opposite Christian Benford, and Brady made it pretty clear what the answer was.
He's our starting corner. Maxwell's got exactly what we look for in a corner, and I was excited for him to be back out playing football. And, as always, there's a reason you're out there, and that's why we want to get out there. And I know he had the missed tackle, and that's why we're practicing, right? That's why you go through the preseason to feel that, to be able to clean that stuff up that some guys had preseason 1 and have had those opportunities. So, no, he's our guy, and we're fortunate of who we got.
So Joe Brady making it clear that Max Hairston is still the number one. He hasn't played like it a lot this preseason. How surprising was that to you?
I'm very surprised. I mean, if we looked at just this performance today, to me, Davison Igbinosun had a better game. Max Hairston very early on missed just a very one-on-one tackle. It was wide open space. It looks pretty rough. And then Igbinosun had a pretty good tackle. I don't know if it was a few plays after the same drive, but not I think it was in the first half. So to me, on paper, Igbinosun looked good today, but obviously we're not factoring in the rest of the preseason and the fact that Igbinosun is still a rookie. And we've said too all preseason that this is Max Hairston's spot to lose, and he hasn't lost it. Now today, we have seen flashes of Igbinosun, and he looks like a solid corner too, but obviously it's Max Hairston, and now he's going to be next to Christian Benford, and the team has faith in him.
A few different ways you could look at this. The one I want to start with here is relative to expectations, Igbinosun's had a better preseason.
Yeah.
In part because Igbinosun's a second-round pick. There's a little less expected of him. He doesn't have the year under his belt in the league that Hairston does, even if Hairston's first year was injury-laden. But I think that because a lot of times you're going to judge a guy based on what you thought he would be, it's going to color your overall view. Yeah. And although, now look, you cycle us back to a month ago when the only thing you and I and Caleb could talk about in the show was, is it going to be a competition?
Yeah.
Is Igbinosun going to get a chance to win the job? And it never was that. It was clear from the start this was Hairston's job. Now, relative to that, Hairston has not played as well. Is it unfair for us to think that it's weird that Joe Brady is so clear on Max Hairston being the number one guy at that spot, because where Hairston was starting from was already so far ahead of Igbinosun, as it turns out, that's probably the correct answer. You know what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I think that this is the expected result. I don't think there would have been, even if, if Max Hairston would have, been horrible the last 3 weeks and Igbinosun would have been,
been kind of close.
Right. And Igbinosun would have been, oh my God, like rookie of the year discussions. I mean, I don't think that he would have surpassed Hairston starting at least week 1 or week 2. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, obviously, as time goes on. Igbinosun could take that spot away and they could, trade off reps and see how that goes. But I don't think this was ever going to be Max Hairston not getting this starting spot unless something, really, really detrimental happened. Like we said, it hasn't been a good preseason for him, but at the same time, to your point, relative to the expectation, Igbinosun has, the bar was lower for him. He surpassed that, and Hairston has fallen below, but he has high expectations. He was the first pick for the Bills last year, and he didn't play because of injury, so the expectations were pretty high.
I think the easy way to sum it up is this is a 100-yard race, but Hairston got a head start that was 20 yards in front of Igbinosun. He still beat Igbinosun by 5 yards, so Igbinosun made up ground, but he still beat Igbinosun, so that's why he gets to be the starter. Let's forget about expectations and all the stuff going through the preseason. Where are you with what you think of corner 2 for the Bills and maybe the secondary as a whole as we head to the regular season, because we have not seen C.J. Gardner-Johnson play in a couple weeks as well?
It's a little bit concerning. I think Gardner-Johnson, this team I think when they got him this offseason, kind of was relying on the fact that he was going to be the guy, and the fact that he's been injured is definitely a concern. I mean, he seems to be, trending upward, I would say. But
at least before he got hurt.
At least before he got hurt, yeah. And it is a concern. And then the corner 2 situation too. I don't think either of these guys, even though Hairston is named the starter now, make me feel super confident about who's going to be there. We know Christian Benford's going to be fine. I mean, he's going to do what he did last year. But as far as that spot goes, it is a concern because we haven't seen greatness from either of those guys, and they're still both so young too. They don't have a lot of experience in this league.
Yeah, I think corner as a whole now is a worry for the Bills, even with Christian Benford and as good as he is, because right now if Christian Benford got hurt, it is hard not to see that position as a 4-alarm fire, and especially with, you talk about Nico Collins and then the Detroit offense that can be a juggernaut, followed by the Chargers with Justin Herbert and the Patriots who have A.J. Brown. I mean, if the Bills have an injury to Christian Benford early, this is a big problem at that spot. Let's move it to a spot on the defense that I think has been much more encouraging. That would be the defensive line. You've seen a lot of good things out of guys like Landon Jackson, who didn't play tonight. TJ Sanders didn't play tonight. And TJ Parker, who did play tonight and continued to stack some pretty good reps.
Yeah, I mean, the one rep that stands out to me is he tipped one of the passes and got up pretty good. So, like you said, he had a really good night tonight, and we've talked about this before too, that we haven't seen much from him as you would want to see out of the first pick for the Bills this year. So
earlier in the preseason,
for sure. And this isn't a guy that we expected to come in week 1 and excel and be up at Bradley Chubb's level and be in that type of thing. But to me, I mean, he's definitely moving upwards in the ways that you would want to see from a rookie.
I've talked about this a couple times on different Bills kickoff and post-game live shows that TJ Parker's a high second-round pick. So the expectations are borderline instant starter, high-level starter immediately. But the Bills don't need him to be that. No. They need him to be probably the 4th outside linebacker after Chubb and Rousseau and Michael Hoyt, assuming he's still healthy, and he's looked nothing but so far. So what we've seen from Parker, I think very easily falls into the realm of, well, is that your 4th defensive end, your 4th edge rusher? You feel pretty okay about what we've seen. Now, look, tonight Parker was going against the guys who most likely will be selling insurance or, waiting on tables in a week or so. But he dominated them at times, and you talked about the pass that was knocked down. He had a pass rush at a different point in the game where he just swam past the guard like he wasn't there. I think TJ Parker, he's checked the box for what you want to get out of him in the preseason.
Now, question, if there's injuries to the defensive line and TJ Parker has to step up, do you feel more in that spot of him filling that role, or do you feel more about the corners, Christian Benford goes down?
Absolutely TJ Parker. Yeah. Absolutely right now. And look, I like Igbinosun. I think like you said, he's had a pretty solid preseason. If you put him in there, I think at least against the run, I would feel pretty solid from the little we've seen him in preseason. And Parker came in with a reputation of being, I think, a little better. I thought he was a little better against the run. So I think you have both those rookies who can at least function in that part of the game. Now, can TJ Parker be a real threat as a pass rusher? I have significant doubts about that. But the other thing, too, is for the Bills to get to a point where they have to rely on TJ Parker, you're talking about 2 of Greg Rousseau, Chubb, and Hoyt going down. So I feel a whole lot better about that than I do with the corner spot. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. Shane Buechele, when he was in his end zone, flailing away, trying to do anything out of there was a moment when I looked at him and said, boy, does this guy even have a spot on the team anymore? And then there he is.
Yeah.
Now, look, again, against guys waiting tables and selling insurance next week, but still scrambling for first downs, finding guys, leading drives. I know he got a big help from a long pass interference penalty, whatever. He got the Bills to a field goal. He got the Bills in the end zone. He threw the game-winning 2-point conversion. This is a third-string quarterback, okay?
Yeah.
We don't need this guy to be bleeping Adonis. But if I can get a little moxie out of him, I know that this guy is going to fight. I think I feel pretty good about that guy.
I wonder what the expectation is for a third-string quarterback, too. I mean, he, I think, has been exactly that. He's been a third-string quarterback in the league. He's not going to go somewhere else and, rise up with another team. But especially that first half, I was thinking the same thing of this is pretty bad. I mean, this is the Shane Buechele that we've seen a little bit throughout the training camp and the preseason of, this is, it's not going well for him. And Kyle Allen is the number 2 spot, and that's confirmed. But then I wish I had the press box view of the final drive because I didn't to see, the comeback. But I do like Shane Buechele, and just like the way he carries himself, I think is good for this team too. I think for that quarterback room, you're not, Josh Allen's the guy, and then Kyle Allen's before you. You're probably never going to see the field this year. I mean, unless something crazy happens with you have the 2 before you. But I do like the way he carries himself, and he just seems like he has, like, did you say moxie was the word? I think. And I think that's exactly the way that I would describe him.
And look, he had to bounce back. I mean, he had to be feeling some frustration with the way the middle part of that game was going, and the ineffectiveness he showed, especially in that possession where they were backed up a pretty decent ways. And, I don't care who's on the field around you. You show me some adversity and show me how you handle it. And he handled it pretty well in this game. Moving behind him to the running back spot, it was just the Frank Gore, Ian Wheeler show today, and really more the Frank Gore show. Now, you and I talked about these two guys a few days ago, and you were pro Ian Wheeler, and so was I between those two. But today, not only the performance, but the snap count was very much pro Frank Gore.
Yeah, this is my apology to Frank Gore. I don't think I gave him enough credit.
I was not familiar with your game.
I don't think I gave him enough credit. Honestly, I think that phrase went through my head as I was sitting up there, as I was not familiar with this game. Ian Wheeler, we know he's impressed being, his background and how he made it to this point and being with the Bills. But it was Frank Gore's game today. I mean, he bounced off a few tackles, made his way into the end zone eventually. He was impressive, and this is a guy that is not going to be, your core 3 of your running back room. But he's certainly a guy after today that I feel comfortable with if he has to be moved up to that spot.
A couple times this preseason, I've thought Frank Gore was, wow, we've seen it, and, you haven't made enough plays. I think you're on the way out. And the moment I think that's when he does something crazy.
Yep.
Like today, just dusting that Pittsburgh defender on the catch and run down to the 1, scored after that. It's a real tough call. So I'll put it to you now.
Oh, no,
let's just say it's for the practice squad. All right, let's say
Yeah.
Ty Johnson's healthy. And I will say I saw Ty Johnson on the sideline. He seemed good to go. If it's just for the practice squad, I'll give you 3 choices, though, okay? Is it Frank Gore?
Okay.
Is it Ian Wheeler? Or is it both?
I think I'm going to lean toward both, and that might be a cop-out answer because I
definitely
don't
is,
have
by
a
the way.
strong. This is tough because I honestly this entire preseason I would have said Ian Wheeler, but I think part of me too thinks that Ian Wheeler can be a practice squad guy go on another team and be that for another team. I think Frank Gore, I think he could be that, but I think this is kind of where Frank Gore is right now. I'm going to say both. I know it's cop-out, but I'm going to say both. But if we're basing it off today, Frank Gore for sure.
Without going through the numbers and understanding who else the Bills might keep practice squad-wise, I don't think both is an impossible answer.
Yep.
I think it's a very possible thing to do. I'm going to go Ian Wheeler simply from the point of view, end of the day, if you're not sure, Ian Wheeler's a bigger guy.
Take the bigger guy,
And this is football, you know. So the other part of it, too, is Ian Wheeler's a guy that hasn't been here for a couple years.
Yeah.
Like he's a little bit of the old Family Guy, what's in the box. You know, we know Frank Gore is the boat, but Ian Wheeler could be anything.
That is true. And I think, Ian, like you said, the ceiling, to me, it feels like the ceiling is high for Ian Wheeler. We've only seen him, he's bounced around the NFL, the UFL. I mean, could have gone to med school. I mean, he's just, like, this is a guy that we haven't seen a lot of as far as being here with the Bills. And you're right, I think his ceiling is a lot higher.
Please check out our previous BKL Nightly show. We talked all about Ian Wheeler. He's got a heck of a story. Staying in the running back room, but not with a guy who played running back tonight, Ray Davis. In a battle, I guess, for the punt return job with McCole Hardman. And I did talk a few shows ago about how I didn't think a running back is your typical punt returner for a number of reasons. And the one he muffed in this game, it looked like on that play that punt returning is something that's a little out of his depth.
Yeah, it seemed like, I don't know if it's solidified tonight that maybe that's not in his wheelhouse, but for sure that was a play that I mean, it resulted in a touchdown, I believe, for Pittsburgh.
It set up a short field.
Yeah,
They
short
scored
field.
in the next play. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not what you want to see. And it opens up the discussion for where does McCole Hardman fit on this team? If Ray Davis isn't in the punt return game, I mean, he's fine on special teams otherwise. What do we do with McCole Hardman? Because he didn't impress me today in the receiving aspect of the game. And then even in the return game, I mean, he's kind of just, you can't take what you can get. He's not going to be impressive either.
He's just a guy. He's a
and,
jag. As
yeah,
a
and so it opens up the question, too, of what are the Bills going to do now? Do you have to go in the receiver room to see who your punters are? I will say, Keon Coleman was an all-ACC punt returner in college, so I don't know if we want to.
I think people at home are getting the jitters about that.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody,
We might bring him out of retirement. I mean, special teams. You never know.
people probably pause the podcast and rewind.
Yeah,
to make
they're
sure
done.
it's exactly
They're
what you
done.
said. Look, I think right now the punt returner for this team is not on this team right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what the answer is. Now, that's rough because this is a team that's going to have a tough time cutting down to 53. I was looking at the roster trying to pick my own 53, and there's a number of guys who you look at and say, wow, I can't believe I'm cutting that guy.
Yeah.
So adding someone else to be the punt returner might be a little illogical. And look, the Bills might go with Ray Davis and say, hey, that was a bad one. Hopefully he improves. But we've got a guy here who's our kickoff returner, a useful secondary running back, and our punt returner. It's a pretty valuable guy to have on your team where you can cover all those spots.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, though, because you saw, that was bad. That was a bad attempt to catch a punt.
It was bad.
With McCole Hardman, I don't think he makes the team. To be honest, the moment he dropped that pass in the first quarter,
Exactly,
I thought that was the end of his time with the Bills,
Yeah.
at least on the active roster. So we'll see, but concerns there for sure.
Do you like Trent Sherfield? Let me throw that question
Oh,
out
that's a
there.
great call, yeah. So Trent Sherfield, I think, makes the team. I had him on the team before this.
Okay.
The thing with Trent Sherfield is Terrell Shavers, if he was healthy, he would be Trent Sherfield.
Yeah.
A guy who can play a lot of special teams, who can be a really good blocker as a receiver in the run game, and can play some receiver too. We've seen Trent Sherfield make a bunch of catches. He's not irrelevant there. He's not elite, but he can do some stuff. So when you can contribute in both ends of the offense and you're all over the field special teams wise, I think that guy makes the team. Now, again, if Shavers was healthy, I don't think Sherfield would even be here, but this is the situation the Bills are in. I think Sherfield makes the team. At the other end of the punting situation, or the punting play, the Bills had a punter battle going through camp.
Yep.
And Tommy Doman never really separated himself from Mitch Wishnowsky. I think the Bills have hoped, that's the draft pick, that's the guy you want to win. Today there was separation. Now Doman I thought had a couple good punts. To be honest, the one he hit out of his own end zone that went to the 45-yard line, it had good hang time and was 45 yards on a short, a situation where you're backed up, you don't have the full distance behind the line of scrimmage to get a punt off. I was impressed by that, even if it went back for a touchdown. But I think the thing, Rachel, that really ended this battle was Mitch Wishnowsky hitting one that didn't even go 20 yards.
Yeah, 19 yards.
Yeah.
I told you before we started this that I was in the press box and it was a collective that was rough. That was rough. I mean, it's the punting game. It's like you said, it hasn't been a battle. It hasn't really been at the forefront of who's going to win this battle.
It's been a battle, but
it's been a battle, but
it
it hasn't been there's so many battles on this team. We haven't talked
Yes.
about it. But I mean, Tommy Doman too. There were, like you said, there were a few hang time. There were a few. It looks like he booted him. I mean, he looks like a guy that if you drafted a punter, I feel like he's exactly what you want him to be. And yeah, Wishnowsky did not impress me tonight.
I'm trying to see if I can find the numbers for Tommy Doman here real quick in terms of the actual punts that he hit, because in my mind, I thought they were pretty good. Let's see what...
They looked pretty good from where I was at. So
the eyeball test was good. Punting for Tommy Doman, 4 for 208 tonight. So he averaged 52 punts, had a long of 59, 2 inside the 20. Those are pretty sick numbers for a punter.
When you're comparing it to a 19-yarder.
Yeah.
Anything will look good against a 19-yarder.
The bar is low. Yeah, so I think the punting battle is over. How about kicker? Tyler Bass was perfect tonight. What would it be? I think 3 field goals and 2 extra points yet? No, 2 field goals and 3 extra points. Other way around.
I believe so, yeah.
Longest one was 42, so never really tested. No doubt it's an up game for Tyler Bass. It's a confidence booster. It's a help. But walking out of this game in this preseason, I don't think there are many Bills fans that are going to go into week 1 of the season thinking, we're good with Tyler Bass.
Yeah, and maybe it's because the Bills their offense has been pretty good this preseason, so Tyler Bass hasn't had as many opportunities in the field goal game, or as far as, having to kick field goals in that situation.
He's had a decent amount.
He's had a decent amount. I just feel like we haven't seen a true test of Tyler Bass. I think maybe last week we saw a lot. Was it 54?
He hit a 52-yarder.
Yeah, the one that barely went in.
The ugly one.
So I mean, we've seen him be tested, but to me, it obviously it matters when it comes down to game time, and there's the game-winning field goal on the line. But we've talked before that this isn't a guy that I feel super confident in when he lines up to kick. I mean, he's been perfect. The perfect, like with an asterisk of, like you said, it barely goes in. He's getting the job done. He's doing what he needs to do. But it will be interesting to see how he performs under pressure this year.
What will it take? I don't even know if I have an answer.
I don't know.
I mean, where do we need him to be perfect the first 4 weeks? Do we need him to hit a game winner or 2 or 3?
Yeah, and I think I said this last week too, that we're sitting here being like, we're not confident in him, but he's been perfect through the preseason, at least the last 2 weeks. I don't know about the first week.
Well, so the weird thing is he's been perfect in the preseason games the last 2 weeks, but he missed 2 in the joint practice in Cleveland. So there are still misses on the ledger, even if they're not out here with referees and full uniforms.
Yeah, but you'd rather have him be perfect out here than perfect, I guess.
Miss is a miss, I think.
You're right.
I think it's hard
when it comes to kickers.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a while. And the other thing, too, is there aren't a ton of kickers across the league that you go into the season and think, that's automatic.
Yeah.
And Tyler Bass still has the leg. I mean, he's still a guy that can hit from 50, 55 on a regular enough basis. So I don't know if there's a better option for the Bills, but it is something that's going to be a bit of a white-knuckle test, a white-knuckle feeling for Bills fans, I think, going forward for a while here. So this game, we talked about it. It was 27-17, not a lot of juice. I got to admit that from about the middle of the third quarter on, I was looking at the clock thinking, just keep going, roll faster, let me get out of here, it's the preseason. And then all of a sudden, Shane Buechele strikes and the thing gets exciting. The reason I bring that up is when we got to the end of this game and the Bills were in a real position to win it, I looked around and there might have been 20,000 people. I thought a third full is where I would have put the stadium. It was really loud in here. It was impressively loud.
Yeah.
And look, Highmark Stadium has been as much something that we're testing and checking out and analyzing and apprising, through this preseason. And there's been a lot of negatives. One of the things this stadium was supposed to provide was a noise reverberation system that'll make it really loud. The first semi kind of sort of test, I was impressed.
Yeah, when I looked at kickoff, it seemed like this place was obviously a little bit more than the third of the way full of fans.
It was good for
fans
a preseason
left a little
game.
bit during halftime.
At the end of the game?
I'm talking the beginning of the game.
Okay.
Kickoff. Like when I looked around, I was like, oh, there's a lot of fans here for a Thursday night preseason game.
Yeah.
I will say that I did realize to me it looks more full because the seats are different colors.
It is kind of,
so they're kind of like splattered. So sometimes you're like, okay, it looks like, oh, that's a guy in a red shirt. Oh, it's just a red chair next in the sea of blue.
Yes.
So I will say it might be like a little bit of an optical illusion as far as that goes. But there were for sure fans in here. Like it was for sure a fun environment for these fans. And like I said, I talked to some of them too earlier, and everybody was fun. It was excited to be here, so it was definitely cool. And when I walked out of the stadium about the third quarter, it was so loud out there. I almost took a video, and then the crowd noise died down. But it was so loud from the outside of the stadium, hearing it, whatever. I think it was when the team ran back in. I think after halftime, I was coming back into the stadium.
It was loud.
It was loud
Outside when you were standing outside the building.
And I pulled my phone out to take a video, and then shrink stopped.
It was done.
But I promise, it happened.
On top of the noise being impressive, it was really windy pregame. Not the worst ever, but noticeably windy. Yeah. And then inside, it was very much less windy. Now, it wasn't dead, but again, another thing this stadium is supposed to do is kind of deaden the wind a little bit. And that was also a success. And then the third thing that I don't think anybody's going to really care about other than maybe me and you, and was not advertised by people who built this place, the lighting down here is exquisite. So I've been on sidelines for NFL games for 27 years, my 27th season.
Yeah.
The colors and the lighting that I saw today, the view I had on the field through a camera lens, one of the 2 or 3 best I've ever had. And in general, I think the air it's clearer later in the year in wintertime and playoffs because it's so cold out. It's humid and everything. I don't know if that's true. I feel like that's true. This game felt super clear. Like the Skyler Bell touchdown, which from my point of view came right at me, wearing blue jersey, blue pants. The colors were ridiculous. I thought it was awesome. So, look, we have had a lot of criticism on this program and other people about this stadium. This game today was a success in a lot of ways.
It does look pretty cool in here. I mean, I will admit, there was a moment when I was upstairs and I looked and I was like, just taking, like you said, the colors. I mean, it's just like taking in, everything's so vibrant. Even the field, I feel like everything is so vibrant. So, yeah, it looks cool. I'm taking it in now, too.
Even a field that doesn't have any colors on it. It's just
You're right.
the
Yeah,
white
I'm
logo
just
through.
the green grass.
Right.
The grass that people are complaining about, but looks good.
So, one guy who didn't play in this game, but was at his locker room doing an interview afterward, was Alec Anderson, because he was named the starter at left guard in the last few days. You were there for the interview. Give me your impression of his reaction to finally getting the number one job.
I mean, he was very humble about it. He said the first thing he did was call his wife and be like, I finally I heard the news. We kind of expected this to, come out of this battle, but he was very, I've been working towards this, and now it's just time for me to, prove why they have their trust in me. He's joining a line that has a lot of veteran guys, and he's going to have to, step up and fill a role, but he seems like he's ready for the challenge, and it was cool to just, he was very humble, like I said, just very chill and like, yep, I'm a starter.
I'm surprised that Alec Anderson went humility for something like this. He's been a
did.
bombastic type guy.
Yeah.
I think this was similar to Max Hairston, Igbinosin, but more so I think Tommy Doman, Wisnowski, in that the Bills had a younger guy. They probably wanted to win. He was ahead from the beginning. Yeah. Austin Corbett was fine. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any problem if the Bills have to play him. But Anderson, I think, stayed ahead well enough to get the opening job. So whether or not he fills the David Edwards role, as well as Edwards did, I think that's probably a long shot to ask, but he doesn't have to be that. Yeah. He just has to be, good enough to not be a weakness, I think, and the Bills will feel okay about him in that role. Anything else from what Anderson said that stood out in terms of maybe going forward now that he's got the job, facing the pressure, and being a part of what's been a juggernaut of an offense? He's really the only new piece.
Yeah, surprisingly, no. Like you said, normally that's not the Alec Anderson you're getting in interviews and when you're in locker rooms, but surprisingly it was just very like, okay, head down, time to work. Like I've earned my spot and this is what it is.
Hey, maybe he's grown up a little bit. That's
maybe.
Smart. Good for him. So the preseason's over and the Bills are 3-0. Joe Brady has never lost a game as the head coach of the Bills. Right. It doesn't mean anything, but it kind of does mean a little bit, though, doesn't it?
It does. As a new first-year head coach, I think you want to win as soon as possible, and to be able to go in and be 3-0, especially with so many new pieces to this team and a new coaching staff and you're trying out different things, and it seems like it's working. You have Jim Leonard sometimes up in the box, sometimes down here. Coaching the defense in different ways each week. I think it's a good sign that the ways that they're trying to change this team from what it was last year is working, and I think that's going to be fun to see. And I think 3-0, even if it obviously means nothing in the preseason, it's definitely a morale boost as you kind of head in, and obviously it's cut down week coming up now, but as you head into week one, I think it's a morale, like we can win, even with the pieces that are a little bit further down in the depth chart, like we know how to win.
I think it means more for a first-year head coach, because you are trying to establish culture, you are trying to establish identity, you are trying to prove that what you've been saying in a vacuum through an off-season, in emails and meetings, has some meaning. And even if it is, again, with guys who are third, fourth, fifth non-stringers tonight in this game, to be able to show that what you are preaching has some effectiveness, I think does help. And look, it goes beyond just the wins and the losses too. Very few times in this preseason were the Bills out there doing stupid penalty things that you would expect from a team that's maybe figuring out its way. Obviously, Dwayne Carter had the 15-yarder. We if we want to briefly talk about him real quick, I don't think he's going to make the team.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a good enough preseason, and getting a penalty like that doesn't help. But Dwayne Carter was the exception, not the rule for this team. Only 6 penalties in this game. Yeah. They had 6 last week, 9 the week before against Carolina. But overall, this was a pretty buttoned-up organization that won 3 games. And they weren't playing the Jets and the Browns either. So, they did play the Browns.
They did play the Browns.
So 2 out of 3 are teams that can walk and chew gum. But overall, this more than just the score. This was a good preseason for the Bills.
Yeah, it's like I said too. It's just going to the fact that you can put these guys out here that a lot of them aren't going to make the team, or a lot of them are going to be the third, fourth string guy, and you watch them make plays that feel like NFL level plays. And like I said, like you're going back to it, it's these guys aren't going to make the team and they're going to be waiting tables, as you said earlier in the show. But just to see that the team has depth and the starters, were able to kind of sit this preseason out as much as they could because of that, I think it's a good sign.
The Bills also got through the preseason mostly healthy. A number of guys who didn't play. Like I said, Keon Coleman, did I say in this show he was dancing on the sideline?
Yes,
I want to make sure to get that in again. He seems fine. Everybody who has been hurt, I saw on the sideline today. Khalil Shakir, Connor McGovern, everybody seems good to go. Getting through the preseason healthy is always job number 1. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Bills Game Day Recap. As always, you can check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Please click on the subscribe button. It helps you. It helps us.
Here we go.
But it helps you as much as it helps us. Maybe us a little more. But either way, we appreciate it when you do. For Rachel Eibert, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for watching. We'll talk to you again next week. Again, we'll have a show on Monday after Cut Down Day. maybe one on Thursday. We'll see how it goes this week, and then we get back into our regular season format after that. Thanks for watching today, and we'll catch you next week.